There are many things which fall away in the many, many steps of adulthood. We of Ra still walk these steps and praise the one infinite creator at each transformation. End of quote. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is Elle, and today I come to read you quotes such as that from the Law of One material and share with you my opinions on them. And today's topics, we are going to be talking about transformation. Why? Because I myself find myself in a state of transformation, a sort of self-induced transformation, as I seek to become a better version of myself, to know myself better, to come into know who I am on a more deep level. I'm going to need to sort of sacrifice some things that I hold dear to my life, in my illusory 3D life that seems to give me lots of comfort. And I don't know to what degree I'm going to tell you what it is. I suppose just know that we all have our sort of vices, and I'm sure you have your own vice, and maybe one day I'll share it with you. But the idea is that I need to be doing a little bit of disciplined work in the next little bit here as I attempt to let go of this wonderful thing that has been around me for most of my life. So what do we call those, vices, whatever. It's a kind of just smoking. Okay. All right. There you go. I gave you a little bit. That's all I'll say. So this brings up a lot of thoughts within me, right? A lot of thoughts about change and how there's like this mind of myself who's very comfortable with the way that things are running and the way that it has lived its life for a long period of time, having, access to certain comforts and things that make me feel good. But I do understand that in order for me to sort of progress and get to where I need to be, I need to listen to my intuition, and my intuition has been hinting for some time that I need to come into a better balance of being with myself, and I have to do that through essentially a sober means, right? So with that, I will need to now sacrifice this lover, this friend of mine, this dear friend of mine, which comes in the ways of smoking. And how am I going to do this? Okay, so here's some things that I look up and I think to myself and I read myself, which is the whole point of my podcast, and really what I do in general is just to try to relate these quotes to you in a way that maybe you can put them into your life that makes some sense. So all I can do is share with you what I do to make sense of my life. So I'm trying to think of, well, how am I going to have the strength to continue to do this? It is a bit of a leap of faith that on the other side is going to be a healthy me, a more full me, a more whatever me, right? So with that, it's faith. There's the infinite path, which is one of faith, and then there is sort of the non-faith path, which is a finite proving path. So I need to have the faith that there is an outcome possible, and then when I have that faith, that essentially will hopefully give me the strength to continue on when things seem like I should give up, right? When I should just give up. So in session 3.9, Ra mentions here, the vibratory distortion of sound faith is perhaps one of the stumbling blocks between those of what we may call the infinite path and those of the finite proving/understanding. End of quote. And I'm just going to continue reading you a second quote for, it's going to need both of these to give you the full context of what I'm getting at here. So elsewhere in the material, they also talk about how through fasting is just one example. Through fasting, you can sort of program your will to point in a certain direction, which will cause change or cause transformation. Obviously, some kind of positive transformation, assuming that you're going through a fasting to positively heal yourself or be a better version of you, right? So in this one session here in 41.22, you don't necessarily need to fast, okay, because the body is a creature of the mind, and therefore it is mostly where you point your focus and your attention and your mind. So with will and faith, transformation is going to be at hand no matter what kind of programming that exists, such as fasting or whatever other types of sort of rituals that you might perform to bring about the change in the mind that you will need to actually create change. But if you do just have the actual focus and ability to really put the will on that, right, then you're going to be able to create change, create transformation. So they state here, the self, if conscious to a great enough extent of the workings of this catalyst and the techniques of programming, may through concentration of the will and the faculty of faith alone, cause reprogramming without the analogy of the fasting, the diet, or other analogous body complex disciplines. End of quote. So you can see here, they're stating just basically that, a lot of people will say, I have to do this, I have to do that. And for their minds, they might have to. They might have to go through a certain fasting procedure in order to bring about that change that they need to, that healing that really convinces themselves that to have the mind to change the body. But it still states here that it really is just the faculty of faith and will, which points in the one direction, which creates change and transformation. But they continue on in another session later in 42.12, and how they bring up what I already mentioned about how this faith and this will is really just focus and attention, and that most people on our earth are those of sort of spiritual children, and that they don't have very good focus or attention, and therefore their desires are sort of running all over the place, and therefore they spread their power out here and there, and they're not very powerful beings, and so not a lot of things necessarily happen in their life, or I'm not sure how to explain it better than that, other than like there's not necessarily a lot of powerful transformation happening. It's just sort of like living on the surface of one, skittering from one thing to the other. Whereas if you have the will and the focus and the attention, it's like a piercing sword that may, seek the truth, and the truth may be given. But anyways, getting off track, I'll read you the quote. They state here, there is but one technique for this growing or nurturing of will and faith, and that is the focusing of the attention. The attention span of those you call children is considered short. The spiritual attention span of most of your peoples is that of the child. Thus, it is a matter of wishing to become able to collect one's attention and hold it upon the desired programming. This, when continued, strengthens the will. This entire activity can only occur when there exists faith that an outcome of this discipline is possible. End of quote. So now you may see all these quotes coming together, where there is faith that an outcome of this discipline is possible. So first, I must have faith that what I'm doing makes any sense, that there's an outcome possible that is a positive outcome, something that I'm sort of looking to manifest. But really, it all comes down to attention. And that's why I always bring up in these podcasts, it's like a lot of different topic titles if you go back into old podcasts, and a lot of them are about desire. And I often ask you and remind yourself, because somebody asked me this in a movie that I was watching one time, this movie called Branded. I think it's made in 2012. And they go into, what do you desire? What do you truly desire, right? There's all these advertisements and all of these people out there trying to gain your attention, especially with social media and us being programmed into our phones. It's all about grabbing your attention. And so what types of things are grabbing your attention? Are they things that you desire, or are they just things that happen to be there that pull your focus and your will away from whatever it is that you're desiring, which is to seek the truth, to seek healing, to seek love, to seek wisdom, to seek higher understandings of unity? I don't know what it is that you want to desire, but what do you desire? Because if you don't know what you desire, then, you're just going to be lost, and there won't be any transformation or change at hand, other than sort of tragic transformation that smacks you, and then you have to be like, wait, what the heck's going on here? Right? Isn't it better to change in a willful way as opposed to a sort of unconscious way? Isn't it better to change in a way that is you trying, as opposed to in a way that's you just living and then things happening to you and forcing you to change? Well, I don't know. These are all wonderful questions to ask the self. Okay, and then that brings up transformation and change. It always brings up the Ankh. If you've seen my podcast or the Law of One on Instagram, I always have my profile page is that of an Ankh. It is basically kind of like a Christian cross, but with a hoop at the top. So if you have seen that before, that is what is going to be described here. But we're only using this description to describe transformation to you, in that what we're doing in transformation in this third density is we are transforming the physical experience, the one that is before us that we can see, touch, and feel, and we transform it into the infinite by, I suppose, pulling lessons from it. It's basically transforming the vertical pull on the cross, okay, the vertical up and down pull. That is the physical third density experience. That is physicalness, okay? And then you have the sideways pull, the 90 degrees sideways pull on the cross, and that is the 90 degree of transformation, where you have transformed the finite into the infinite, or the physical, let's say, into the metaphysical. And you have created now also the center of the cross, where you have the physical meeting the metaphysical, where the physical has been transformed into metaphysical lessons of love, because also what happens to be at that metaphysical horizontal cross is the heart chakra. In terms of symbolism, the first three chakras are the bottom of the pole, the red, orange, yellow, which are your more masculine chakras. More physical chakras have to do with the first, second, and third density, which is like the earth, right? Everything that we see and touch and feel. And then through the heart and through the transformation of the 90 degree, through the heart of transformation, and even through sacrifice of that third density experience, right? That we are putting it up before us and we're saying, hey, what am I to make of this experience? Or even in terms of sacrifice, hey, I shall sacrifice a portion of my third density experience that I so love, so that it may be transformed into a higher lesson for me, so that I may sort of enter the heart in a way. So sorry, I might be getting a little bit off here, but in session 93.24, they state, the crux ansata, which is the Ankh, is a part of the concept complexes of the archetypical mind. The circle indicating the magic of the spirit, the cross indicating the nature of manifestation, which may only be valued by the losing. Thus, the crux ansata is intended to be seen as an image of the eternal in and through manifestation and beyond manifestation through the sacrifice and transformation of that which is manifest. End of quote. So that might have got a little bit complex, but it reminds me of a part that I just forgot to tell you about. So the bottom pole is the sort of the first three chakras, or the first three densities, if you will, and those then are transformed at the horizontal cross at the heart, and through those they are transformed into, at least on the Ankh, into that circle on top of the horizontal pole, and that is as they state here, the magic of spirit. And you'll notice also that the magic of spirit, as it goes up and it is a circle and it comes back down into the transformation, into the heart again. And isn't that something interesting, that through the transformation we go up into infinity, come back down into the heart, and then even that heart can now manifest back into the reality of the physical density as well. And okay, we're getting so esoteric here. I don't imagine most of you are following along. But just know that through the sort of sacrifice of this third density experience, and maybe things that you hold dear to yourself for a higher transformation, will probably lead to, well, the nature of spirit, which in my opinion is magic and the infinite path. There's lots of other quotes here that they talk about, and they talk about how a lot of us are just groping in the moonlight, and there are very few adepts who can use the light and truth of the sun. Most of us are here just sort of dancing in the moonlight. And so there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but my sacrificing of my thing that I was telling you guys about is my attempt to hopefully step out of the moonlight and maybe experience some of this truth of the light and really come to know myself on a deeper level, because through the clouds of the smoke right now, I sometimes think that I have a sense of what's going on, and I do understand that I don't understand, and all of that as well, and I have the faith to continue, and it is all wonderful, but I do feel that there is a small disconnect in my intuition, in my higher, indigo chakra, in that I could be more connected, and that I am being blocked there from being unbalanced with my sort of vices that I like to use to provide comfort, right? Because we live in this third density, and it's difficult, and it's stressful, and it's anxiety inducing, and there's financial constraints, and there's spiritual constraints, and there's all sorts of distortions going on with people being sick, and then you have relationships to deal with, and then work and family and friends and sports and your health, and just all these things that are just stack upon one another. And so do understand that I understand your pain. It's not easy out there. Change is scary. I am attempting to to step into this transformation and this change and this letting things go and letting them fall away. And hopefully that this will, end. I have the faith to know that this will end in something good. And because I know that right now, even if you just listen to my last few podcasts, I'm so scatterbrained. This transformation and change for me is very anxiety inducing. It's really uncomfortable. Okay, it's very uncomfortable. But with the uncomfortableness, I am reinvigorating my faith that good things are at hand. And I just want to say that some of you fellow seekers have reminded me of that in my sort of dark times in the last little bit. That hey, we are here for each other, and that I have that faith, and you maybe don't know that you're acting on behalf of spirit, but you are really reaching me at the most needed and wonderful and perfect times. So thank you, everybody who shows love, gives love my way. I appreciate you guys. I love you. So thank you, everybody, for listening. If you like the podcast, please give it a like. Maybe even if you didn't, just to help it in the algorithm, leave me a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you find value in what I do, I would have a support section on the oneinfinitecreator.com. You can scroll down there and join my Patreon, shoot me a one-time PayPal. It is very much appreciated. It helps me and to do these things and to keep them going and to try to give you a quality. And I promise that my quality will increase in the next little bit as I make it through my transformation. I will stumble and be a little bit but stick with me, and I will put out some good material real soon, some more inspiring material, something that makes you really want to click in and listen. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, you guys. Okay, so I love you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Bye-bye.